You guys know what time it is, man. A new week has started and the hot takes are back. And this was one of the most controversial weekends that we have had in Fortnite competitive in a while. So I am so excited to dive deep into all of your guys' hot takes today. If you guys don't know what hot takes is, it's basically the series where I give you guys a platform to voice your guys' current opinions or concerns about the world of Fortnite competitive. We got a lot of different opinions on players like Clix and Higs, Peterbot and Poyo, and so many others, of course. Real quick before this video starts though, please subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we're currently on the road to 120,000 subscribers. If you guys want to support me even more, please use code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop. We're shouting out people every single video that DM me proof of them using code KDOG to my Twitter. So shout out to these two people on the screen right now. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys follow me on my Twitch or come back here on the day of finals if you want to watch the finals of any of these tournaments with me. Without further ado though, we're gonna see a bunch of controversial takes today. Let's start this one off with feel bad when content creators pay pros to play with them and waste their primes. At Batman Booga, do the right thing, go win a major next year. Clix doesn't grind the game anymore, he's already a millionaire. Now this is definitely probably either the first or second most talked about thing on all of this hot takes discussions right here, is should Clix and Higgs actually split as a duo? I have given my own opinion on this so many times. I've seen so many other people's opinions, and pretty much what I am seeing right now is the community is kind of 50-50 right now. Half of the people want Higgs to drop Clix and go back to fragging because Higgs is still showing his fragging capabilities, and I would have to say so far since duos has started, Higgs has been a better fragger than Clix probably, but he just hasn't really got to shown that because he is an IGL. I still do think skill wise Higgs and Clix are relatively close to each other, but I would still give the slight edge to Higgs right now. I think my take on this whole situation is obviously if Higgs were to drop Clix right now and go play with somebody like Rapid, I think that is pretty obvious that in the short term Higgs would have so much more success playing with Rapid than he would with Clix right now. But if they are thinking long term and thinking FNCS Grand Finals, if Higgs is able to actually become a good fighting IGL, then he has just opened up his potential so much more than what it already is. He's one of the few pros right now that is trying to make that transition into becoming a fighting IGL, and I feel like just based on the leaderboards that we have seen over the past couple of tournaments, the main duos that are really succeeding right now is teams that have a traditional IGL. Like Acorn and Bulch just won the Cash Cup. Obviously Acorn is an IGL. On EU we saw Teeny and Shark win the Cash Cup. Of course Teeny's not like a traditional IGL, but he did still have all of that IGLing experience in duos in the past. Higgs has no IGLing experience so far, and so it is really just up to Higgs to make the decision if by the time FNCS starts, does he think he can be a good enough fighting IGL, and does he also think that Clix is a better player than Rapid? Those are all really interesting questions. I don't know if I can agree with your statement that Clix doesn't grind the game. I think Clix still grinds the game a lot more than so many other pros while having so many extracurricular things to do as well outside of the game. Right now I really wouldn't be surprised if Clix and Higgs ended up sticking together or splitting up, because it really could go either way at this point. The results in tournaments haven't really shown anything yet, and if they have another bad week in this next Cash Cup Finals, I wouldn't be surprised if next week when we're in the last Cash Cup Finals of the season, if maybe they want to try out some different teammate options to see if that goes better for them. But yeah, I'm curious on what you guys think about this. We've been talking about it a lot, but do you want Clix and Higgs to actually split up or not? By the time FNCS season comes around, Khanada and Ark will have solidified themselves as the third best NA Central duo behind Acorn and Bolts and Peterbot and Poyo. Now, this is a take that I feel like has just slowly been progressing week after week. I remember when this duo first formed, we were saying that there is potential that they could be a top 3 duo by the time FNCS starts, and now a lot of people are ready to just have that full opinion now. They've already won a Cash Cup together, have had a little bit of inconsistent performances sprinkled around that Cash Cup win though. Of course, Ark is not going to be on 0 ping until next chapter, so he will not be on 0 ping for any of the tournaments next season either, or the rest of this season, of course. They've already showed though that their ceiling is winning a Cash Cup and winning tournaments, while Ark is at a ping disadvantage as well. So I think this is 1000% a take that could come true by the time FNCS starts. Peterbot is a terrible IGL without coins, mythics, and exotics. he's holding Poyo back, and Poyo should be playing with an Acorn or a Rapid. I think this is probably the first time we've ever seen a take of somebody saying that Peterbot is holding a player back. Usually it's the other way around when we had like people saying Ritual was holding Peterbot back, or even last year, and I've already seen people this year say Poyo is holding Peter back and he should be playing with Cold and things like that. But going back to your main point about Peterbot being a bad IGL, his IGLing performances this season have been nowhere near like amazing. I don't even know if I would say he's been a good IGL. I don't even know. I could probably barely, he's probably just been a mid IGL this season. If I'm just being real, his IGLing has been mid. He's won 2 cash cups, so we got to give credit where it's due. But I'm going to continue to repeat what I've said. I don't like their mat conservation. They've been taking way too long in mid game fights. They seem to not be as dominant of like a mid game fighting duo anymore that can just absolutely roll through teams. I was saying this on my stream when I was watching them. Even like last season when we were watching Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual in the mid games of Cash Cup finals, they could literally just walk through teams with ease. But it seems like for some reason Peter and Poyo can't do that. So they definitely probably have to adjust some things to their game plan. I don't know if that is going to mean that they need to W key less, but it seems like in so many of these end games that they make, they are already just so scuffed, even while they have a completely uncontested POI. And then even in the games that they play more passive, they're sometimes just struggling on Surge too. I don't really know what has been going on with Peter and Poyo, but there clearly is things that they both need to improve on if they want to get back to that level of not only winning tournaments, but winning FNCSs as well. It's so crazy how much the narrative has flipped on this duo though. Literally at the beginning of the season, people were saying Peterbot and Poyo are going to win every single FNCS next year. And now people are already saying that Peterbot is like a terrible IGL and he can't win without mythics and exotics. We do got the opposite perspective of this though, and we will see a Peterbot like we saw back in chapter 5 for this next chapter. After getting 2 of his worst placements in 2 years, teams will be lucky to even think about being within 100 points of them in any of the grand finals. I do think that at times Peter does need a wake-up call, because when you are a player that has had as much success as him in as short of a time as he had, like his FNCS placements over the past 2 years are just literally disgusting. He's been the best player in the game for so long now that there probably is a level of like, oh, I don't need to be trying as hard in these tournaments because I'm just so good and I can place highly whenever I want to. But now that he might be seeing that that might not be the case anymore, I definitely do think that by the time next chapter comes around, we could be seeing a completely new Peter once again. He seems to also just be kind of demotivated with the game right now. Off season, not too much really going on. Can't really blame him for that, to be honest. I do want to get this out there though. I do still feel like Peter and Poyo are going to be just fine by the time next year starts. I still do think that they can win multiple FNCSs and potentially the LAN as well, but I have always been the person that said I do not think that Peter and Poyo are just going to walk into next year and win every single FNCS, including the LAN event. And it's interesting seeing a lot of other people start to feel that way as well. Clix and Savage is looking more likely than ever. Savage does not have a duo, and he said he is willing to go to NA for Clix, and if Clix and Higgs split, then Savage would be a better option than someone like Rise or Booga. Now, this is actually a very interesting thing that I don't really know why I haven't thought of yet. We talk so much about Clix and Higgs splitting up and who Higgs would be playing with, and the main person seems to be like Rapid, but we never really talk about who Clix could potentially play with. And as you literally said yourself, Savage right now is playing with Scroll, and we have some other hot takes about them later. But Savage and Scroll are obviously not like 100% locked in for all tournaments going into the future. They're literally just trying out right now. And if Clix does end up getting dropped, I'm wondering if he would be more willing to potentially play with Savage. That is really just the thing though, that if Clix and Higgs do end up splitting up, I really don't know what Clix's options would actually be. As you said, like some people like Rise or Booga definitely could be really realistic options for him, and I'm wondering if he actually would rather play with Savage than any of those other duo options right there. So I think this is a pretty interesting thing to think about. I love Scroll and wouldn't mind if they stick together, but I think Savage has better options than him. And then he ended up posting a screenshot of their actual kin stats. And I'm not gonna lie, I had to check if this was even real, and I did some of my own research, and yeah, this is a real screenshot right here. Scroll did end with 0 elims in 4 total games compared to Mr. Savage at 10. Mr. Savage, as the IGL of this duo, out-fragged, out-damaged, out-damage ratioed, literally everything that the fragger was supposed to do. Savage did more. I don't know if Skrull was like nervous playing with Savage in the finals for the first time, and I'm not like trying to sit up here and like bash Skrull or anything, but he's definitely going to need to have some better performances in the future, and I think that this is probably going to end up hopefully being the worst performance that he has with them playing together. But yeah, I mean, these are some crazy stats to look at. There is no real consistent duo in EU right now, and the most consistent duos are actually Pings and Kiro in Panzer and Malabuka. I think that's pretty much what you could say about both NA and EU. On NA though, there definitely is more consistent teams at the top, but there really isn't any super dominant team on either NA or EU, which is why I think for me especially, it's making the game so fun to watch right now. Like, I literally have no clue who to predict in my top 5 week after week, and my top 5 predictions have been absolutely terrible this season, I'm gonna be honest, but I'm not even really mad about it because it's made the game so much more entertaining to watch. And as you said, Ping and Kiro and Panzer and Malabuka have both also looked super good, qualifying for pretty much every single finals that they've been playing together for. I'm not gonna act like Panzer and Malabuka didn't have some rough first 2 week Cash Cup performances though that you're not including in here. But yeah, that's also why it's just so hard to rank these duos right now and say if these teams should be splitting up or sticking together, because nobody's really consistent right now. Ree is one of the best IGLs in the game right now. He led Muzz to a 4th place, possibly a 1st, won an Eval Cup game, and then placed 2nd in a completely different meta. Now, I also have to take my L here. I was one of the people that did have some doubts about IGL Ree. I've just always been a person that's been a little bit skeptical of controller IGLs, but I mean, there is 2 controller IGLs right now that have just been absolutely dominating in duos, and Ree is one of them, so gotta give all of my props to him. Him and Muzz are absolutely crushing what my expectations were for them, so super happy that they're finding success together. Shark and Teeny are going to be one of the best duos in 2026. They will be a replica of Chap and Teeny, maybe even winning an FNCS next year. Now yeah, we were literally just talking about Shark and Teeny and how good Teeny has been as a controller IGL as well, and this is basically what I have been saying. Shark and Teeny, really ever since like I think it was the first eval finals that they played together, I did say that they really did remind me basically exactly of Chap and Teeny from last year, and I'm expecting a full breakout for Shark. He has been like slightly on the edge of that, but I still don't think he's ever had like a good grand finals performance quite yet, and I 100% expect that to change now in 2026, especially with a player like Teeny who's had multiple 2nd places in grand finals, a top 10 performance at LAN. This duo is going to do big things next year. Mongraal and Mikson will top 5 grands if they stick. So if you guys haven't seen yet, it looks like Mongraal and Mikson are going to be sticking together for this week once again, playing the Eval Cup together, playing the Div Cups together as well. Really hope that they're able to qualify, because I hope this isn't like a thing where they do super good week 1 and then they fail to qualify in week 2. Do I actually think they'll be able to top 5 in a grands right now if they stick together? 1, I think it's a little bit too early to really either say yes or no, and 2, if I had to like bet money on if Mongraal and Mikson are going to top 5 of grand finals, I would probably have to lean more towards no. Mongraal finished in 8th place in grands with Mr. Savage and Panzer, while Panzer was playing like one of the best players in all of that grand finals, and top 5ing in duos is harder than top 5ing in trios, and I don't know the last time we saw Mongraal or Mikson finish top 5 in a grand finals. And I actually had to just stat check it real quick because I was curious, and Mikson has only placed 5th place in a grand finals 1 singular time, and that was in 2023. I mean, it was in duos though, so maybe if Mikson is able to get back to that level as an IGL and Mongraal continues grinding, and I've heard some things that they're gonna pick up Bloodix as their coach as well, then maybe it's possible, but I think this is one that we gotta give them some more time before we start making takes like this. Peterbot and Poyo went from being overrated after winning back-to-back Cash Cups to being overhated after their recent placements. I think this is a really good way to word it, to be honest. As I said earlier, I was also still really critical of them even after the first 2 Div Cups that they won, because I didn't think that they were playing anywhere near their full potential in those Div Cups, and they were still winning finals. And we literally had people saying that like after those 2 Div Cups that they were like guaranteed to win every single FNCS next year. But also now, after they've had some bad performances together, people are saying that like Peter is the worst IGL of all time and things like that. And while I do think that it is fair to criticize them, we can't act like Peter hasn't literally won 6 FNCSs while being the IGL in all of those. And even still at the same time, I really do feel like if a lot of people had to make a prediction on who is going to win the first FNCS next year, most people would still probably say Peterbot and Poyo. Booga Unconned with Aviv is a top 5 duo on NA. This one is also kind of hard for me to really agree with right now. There is just so many good duos. Like, we got names like Cold and Ritual, Yamzo Agers, Rapid Threats, Acorn Bolts, Peter and Poyo, and that doesn't even include like Khanada and Ark, Clix and Higs. And I don't really know if I'm ready to say that Booga and Aviv is going to be better than any of those 7 teams I just listed. I think their ceiling is probably like a 5th place in an FNCS Grand Finals. But as you said, he would have to be completely uncontested in it, and a lot of other teams would have to perform down to their expectations. Acorn will continue the streak of winning the first FNCS of Chapter 7, while Peterbot continues his streak of getting second before winning the 2 FNCSs back to back again and becoming an 8 times champion. Now, just based on what we have seen this season, this honestly isn't even really a crazy take. Acorn and Bolts have looked absolutely insane, and Acorn, if you know him historically, he always seems to find a way to win the first FNCS of a chapter. And honestly, just with how things are looking right now, I wouldn't be surprised if this did end up happening. I think that Pixie, Walks, Tasted Murstache, and Venya Swizzy should all switch from these duos, and I think the best would be Tasted and Walks, Pixie and Venya, and then Swizzy and Murstache. Swizzy already won an FNCS while IGLing with Putrick, and fighting IGLs is the way to go for the best results. Now, I definitely wouldn't be surprised at all, and I probably would expect over these next up and coming weeks that both Pixie and Walks and Tasted and Murstache end up splitting as duos. I don't really know if I'm ready to say that Venya and Swizzy should split up yet. I think they still do have the potential to win every single tournament that they make the finals of, and they're 100% going to be in contention for winning every FNCS next year as well. But if all 3 of these teams were to split up, I think the new teams that you also made are very interesting options for all of them as well. Ping is the most underrated player in the world by far. Now, we talked about Ping and Kiro a little bit earlier, and Ping and Kiro right now are kind of giving me some like deja vu of what we saw with like Pigstar and Demas last year. I know Ping is obviously a lot more proven than Pigstar and Demas were going into last year, but just a super underrated team, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ping and Kiro consistently place like top 5 in FNCSs all throughout next year as well. But also, as you said, Pings was so underrated pretty much the entirety of last year. Going into this year and going into duos, he had no duo options because people thought he literally just didn't care about the game, and now he has been placing so highly with Kiro, who I don't think very many people even expected Kiro to be like on a top 10 duo on EU right now, and he's almost won a cash cup at this point. So yeah, Ping has been playing absolutely insane, and he is still so underrated. Controller players are coming back. Now, this was a thing that I was kind of hinting at earlier when we were talking about both Teeny and Ree and A. As a fellow controller player myself, this is something that I absolutely love to see. The controller boys are finally doing good again. I think this was kind of just what you could expect going from trios to duos though. And I'm excited that this will hopefully give some more hope to those other up and coming controller players out there that you can still place good while being on a controller. I still do think though that if you have the opportunity to switch from controller to keyboard, you should do it, but still, Ree and Teeny have been absolutely killing it so far. Other than that, let me know what you guys thought about all of the hot takes that we had to go over today. A bunch of very interesting opinions and an absolutely drama-filled weekend, you know, was gonna lead to a lot of potential overreactions. So let me know which takes you guys think were valid and which ones you guys think were overreactions. Remember though, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. Please use code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop if you guys want to support me even more. We're trying to hit 1,000 supporters on the code, and we're getting so close to that goal each and every single day. So thank you guys so much for that. YouTube still enjoy one of these videos up on the screen right now, so go check them out if you guys haven't already. Thank God for another day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.